Our next speaker is Michelle Simtoco from the Philippines. Michelle is a graduate of Doctor of Dental Medicine, but found herself being led to a different path where she became an administrator and co-owner of preschool Dynamic Minds Learning House. She served actively in the music ministry of the Light of Jesus community and participated in a couple of musical plays like Siddhartha the Musical. She has published a book called Dancing with the Ripples with the intention to help raise funds for her best friend who had cancer. She has started a YouTube channel called Ripple Inspirations to inspire and empower people to grow in wholeness through the lens of gratitude. She is a member of Satsang Lodge Cebu, Philippines. Michelle now presents her talk entitled Finding Courage in Unlocking Inner Doors.
Finding Courage in Unlocking Inner Doors. As I was reading the Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo, he said that there exists for each life on earth a set of inner doors that no one can go through for us. Whatever our circumstances in life are, the underlying challenges in our lives will not go away. We can change jobs or relocate, but the very core issues we try to avoid keep returning, sometimes with different faces. We may try to skip over or sidestep what we need to face, but we humbly learn and discover that no other threshold is possible until we find the courage to open the door before us. That perhaps the oldest working truth of self-discovery is that the only way out is through. My Inner Journey. In the years 2020 to 2021, there were three major things that happened. 1. We announced the closure of our preschool, which was a huge chapter in my life. 2. I had a large myoma that needed surgery. And 3. All of this happened when the COVID-19 pandemic hit globally. When we decided to close our preschool, I became aware of the mental chatter that made me feel overwhelmed and stressed. It was because I was torn with worry, anxiety, and guilt. I knew I needed to deal with these emotions, but even if I talk it out with another person, they don't really go away. And sometimes, because of the different opinions, I'd end up more confused. Meditate. I have been meditating, but it was an on and off thing. When I'm facing challenges and feeling panic, I couldn't seem to sit still. The body would start wriggling and squirming, and I would get up and leave the chair. And other times, I would just find something to distract me. But this time, I knew that this was something I needed to do. There was a time I was feeling so drained because I was so busy. I opted not to attend the lodge meetings, and thereby I was doing things on my own. And as I went over videos about meditation, I chanced upon a talk by Sadhguru that spoke to me. He used the example of being caught in traffic to demonstrate how having a calm mind is a matter of perspective. While being trapped in traffic might become a nuisance, seeing traffic from a distance, like from a hot air balloon, alters our perception of it. We can view the entire scene differently. Mind is not an issue once there is a space between you and the activities of your mind, he said. That made a lot of sense to me. So with that understanding, I committed to a daily meditation practice. I sat with my noisy thoughts, uncomfortable emotions, and squirming body faithfully day after day. In that process, I started to experience the quietness of the mind, and I found the courage to open the door and sit with myself attentively, without judgment, face to face, eye to eye, heart to heart. I have been raised to be a responsible sister, and my thoughts had turned to, am I now being irresponsible? We are supposed to be models of our students. What example am I giving the kids? Does this look like giving up? Also, I was a hands-on administrator and co-owner, and have given a lot of service for the past 20 plus years, and it's been wonderful years of discovery, growth, and joyful experiences. But I had begun to be restless, doing a lot of paperwork, and I had to face this too. My soul seems to be seeking for more. What is it? How do I honor and stay true to myself? And what happens when I give this all up? What I discovered is that when you have clarity, you can make decisions in alignment with your higher self, and you experience inner peace. It did not erase the challenges, but I could take the necessary steps with more certainty. Also, when you are in alignment with your inner self, your outer world will also align. We were ordered to our first lockdown 2 months after our announcement of closure. And after the initial dismay of our decision to close, everyone was telling us what great timing it was that we did. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. To understand yourself is the beginning of wisdom. The more you know yourself, the more clarity there is. Self-knowledge has no end. You don't come to an achievement. You don't come to a conclusion. It is an endless river. Another door to go through. After dealing with the things needed for closure, my mother finally convinced me to have an ultrasound when December 2020 got around. This was something I kept declining, and it was discovered that I had a large myoma that needed surgery. I felt conflicted. I was hearing the reassuring words from my mother that a lot of women have undergone such surgeries and it is going to be okay. But my body felt tense because the prospect of being sliced open terrified me. As I continued to meditate, I transitioned from resistance to acceptance, and I prepared myself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I was hospitalized not once, but twice, because a few days after my surgery, blood with pus oozed out of the surgical site. I had an abscess. I was in and out of the hospital for about 2 months, receiving pre-operative tests and post-operative treatment at the wound care center. Perhaps one would label me as unfortunate or unlucky because I had to go through such things. I decided to see the storm as an inner door that I had to pass through. When I chose to open the door to face my fear, I saw it was an invitation to love myself more deeply. Instead of being critical, I forgave myself for being stubborn, for not having the ultrasound, and for not having known better. And throughout my healing process, I chose to be compassionate and patient with myself and the situation. And every day I would thank my body and encourage it to accept the medications. And I learned to ask support from family and friends. I'm really grateful for the prayers that were sent my way. And you know what? I've also learned to be brave, and I discovered that I am resilient. Last May, a few days before my 50th birthday, in my quiet time, and for the very first time in my life, I sat there holding the gift of life with great gratitude. I had tears in my eyes, and I knew something inside of me had been forever changed. May you never overlook how powerful it can be to slow down for a moment, to take a little time to breathe. What door do you need to open and go through? If we pay close attention and have cultivated enough awareness, we can find clues in our day-to-day life. Often, they're usually under our noses and we know what they are, but we are hoping that they will go away. In her book, Start Where You Are, A Guide to Compassionate Living, Pema Chodron shares this slogan: whatever you meet unexpectedly, join with meditation. This is an interesting suggestion to view life's interruptions differently. You see, real problems are the material for waking up, and these unexpected happenings are designed to stop our minds. She shared an experience that happened to her on a retreat. She had just finished her evening practice, and one would think she was in a calm, saintly state of mind. But when she saw that someone had left dirty dishes in their serving area, she started to get really upset. Their utensils had their names on them, and she wanted to know whose name was on those dishes. She was already pretty sure who it was, because there was only one woman in their group who would leave such a mess. She was always just leaving things around for other people to clean up. Who did she think she was going to wash these dishes? Her mother? Did she think we were all her slaves? Everyone thinks she's a senior practitioner, but actually, she might as well have never meditated, for the way she's so inconsiderate of everybody else on this planet. But when she got to the sink and she looked at the plate, and the name on it was Pema, and the name on the cup was Pema, and the name on the fork was Pema, and the name on the knife was Pema. It was all hers. Needless to say, it stopped her in her tracks. All of life's interruptions, chaos, and challenges are inviting us to stop. Take a deep breath and let the storyline go. And ask ourselves, what am I to learn from this? When we ignore the lessons, or when we fail to learn a lesson, it will be presented to us over and over until we get it. There are many doors, whether it's related to work, relationships, money, self-worth, self-care, responsibility, compassion, and others. What door you need to open, you will know. I don't like this door. I want another door. That's called resistance, and we end up getting stuck. I want her or his door. That's called jealousy. I have realized that growth is most painful when we are unwilling and when we compare ourselves with others. There are thousands of channels in our consciousness. It is up to us to choose the channel. It is only by going down into the abyss that we recover the treasures of life. Where you stumble, there lies your treasure. The very cave you are afraid to enter turns out to be the source of what you are looking for. When I opened the doors of clarity, self-love, and compassion, I discovered these treasures on the other side. I have learned to slow down and be present. During this lockdown, I made self-care a priority. I take the time to watch the sunrise, read, meditate, exercise, study, relax, and rejuvenate. I have also trained myself to catch thoughts that have judgments in them. I align my decisions with my values, priorities, and philosophy of life. So it is a must to have a wholesome philosophy of life. I have experienced what it means to let go, so there is new space for things to unfold. I'm not a techie person, but I learned to edit using a smartphone and started a YouTube channel called Ripple Inspirations. And I am planning to write a book next year. I try to say yes to life even if I'm uncomfortable and uncertain, like saying yes to giving talks. I understand that I need to be willing and use courage to take the road less traveled, because the pain of not growing and staying stuck is more painful. Life is a dance between the outer world and the inner world, the brain and the heart, the observer and the observed. When there is an alignment between the physical world and our inner direction, it allows us to harness our energy and we can move forward with grace and ease. So may all of us be willing and courageous participants in this dance called life and respond to our challenges with awareness, mindfulness, compassion, and gratitude. What you are, the world is, and without your transformation, there could be no transformation in the world. True freedom and the end of suffering is living in such a way as if you had completely chosen whatever you feel or experience at this moment. This inner alignment with now is the end of suffering. Suffering cracks open the shell of ego, and then comes a point when it has served its purpose. Suffering is necessary until you realize it is unnecessary. You must understand the whole of life, not just one little part of it. That is why you must read. That is why you must look at the skies. That is why you must sing and dance and write poems and suffer and understand, for all that is life. Love and light from my heart space to yours.